Welcome, welcome, everybody. Hope everyone is doing well. Let's get this screen changed here. We can take down the banner there, Raymond. Perfect. Okay, here we go. Sorry, we had some weird camera stuff going on there for a moment. Welcome, everybody. Welcome to another Community Fit. I am your host, James, and I'm super excited to be here with you today. Just checking any requests coming in. Speaking of, if you have any requests for today, go ahead and put them in the chat. I'll check them right before we start. So, welcome to a midweek desk stretch, your embodiment class. As usual, we take any requests for today. I'll check those in a moment. I saw that there was some hips and knees and looks like some low back stuff coming in. Um, and if you're joining us for the first time, welcome. If you're joining us, like routinely, if you're here every week, you're before, you know the drill. We're going to get started here in just a moment with some nervous system warm-ups because nervous system warm-ups are quite literally the key to everything. If you have your routine warm-ups that work for you, by all means, go and do them. And if you're like, I have no idea what a nervous system warm-up is, I'm going to need some support on that, you can follow me along. And then we're going to work pretty much through the whole body, but we're going to always do it through the lens of whatever requests are coming in. So I'm going to take one. You have 3 seconds. Three to get them in, to get any requests in. Three, two, one. Okay. What do we got? We got usuals. We've got hips, knees. We've got low back, and then we have low back and hip pain, especially due to scoliosis. Okay, we'll talk about scoliosis here in a bit. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. It looks like we're going to have sort of a back into leg day, which is great. Last week we had a kind of neck and shoulders into back day. So it's like in the last 2 weeks we covered the whole body. Um, Spend a few moments, do our nervous system warm-ups. I'm going to start off with some breath work, just some grounding, long, exaggerated exhalations. Like that's all you got to do. It's an inhale like a regular human being, and then a long, exaggerated, prolonged, extended exhale. And we're going to do it for about 30 seconds, starting now. One or two more. And then for me, I'm going to go into a little therapeutic touch. So I'm just going to place one hand over the other. You can place them wherever it feels like you need a little bit of holding, a little bit of groundedness. For me, it's my chest, but other options might be the jaw, the throat, the chest, the belly, elsewhere. Or you could just continue to do the breathing or whatever else works for you. Couple more breaths. Now I'm just going to go into a little orientation. Feel like I've had enough inside work. I'm going to go outside now, meaning I'm just going to start to look around the room. And I'm just going to notice things that are in the space. I'm going to name them to myself. What that might sound like in your internal dialogue is window, wall, plant, pillows, dog. Bob the dog is right over here. Computer, camera, doors. You're just looking around, letting your body take in the space. Good. And if you need more, by all means, continue to do the nervous system work. I'm going to make one quick camera adjustment since we're doing a lot of like lower body stuff today. That's probably going to be a better angle. Okay, so we've got on the plan today some low back specific into hips and leg specific stuff, and we'll kind of work that into the whole body. But because we did have a specific ask for scoliosis, I want to talk about that for just a moment. So I think most of us are aware that scoliosis is a curvature of the spine, and that curvature can be an infinite number of um, twists, curves, movement of the spine. So here's what I'm going to advise. If you routinely have spinal or shoulder or low back or even hip pain on one side over and over and over and over again, and no matter what you do, it won't go away, and you're like, I don't know if I have scoliosis, you probably should get checked. Not that there's anything critical with it, but understanding the ergonomics, the symmetry, the movement of the body will be really helpful when you try to problem solve some stuff in your body. On top of that, if you don't know and you're just kind of curious, or if you do know that you have some version of scoliosis, the best advice I can give you is to work hand in hand with a physical therapist or a well-trained Pilates teacher, or I'm going to be super picky about this one, like a very skilled therapeutic yoga instructor. And what I don't mean by any of these are like people who kind of know something about it, a Pilates teacher or yoga instructor at a gym who's teaching a group class, a group class of any sort. What you would want to invest in is one-on-one sessions for X amount of time to come up with a very specific routine to help you understand the curvature of your body, what would provide relief, how to strengthen up what needs to be strengthened. And the reason I'm saying that is it is impossible for me right now to help anyone with any sort of scoliosis or spondylolisthesis or stenosis or much any of the other pathologies of the spine because they're so particular to the individual. And so what I'm going to give today, as always, is options and choices for things to kind of try on and experiment with, because I don't know what your body, I don't know what is going on with the body. I don't know the pathology of the body. I don't know, like that's so specific, right? So as we're exploring and playing today, what I can offer are some options to kind of work with that and a strong advocacy to spend some money to understand like the particulars of working with your body, because the ROI, the benefit of that is going to be exponential. And that goes for anyone who has persistent pain anywhere, right? If you've got a neck thing, if you've got a hip thing, if you've got a whatever is at some point when you can't problem solve it yourself, that is quite literally why those career paths exist, is to support things like that. So I'm going to leave that there, and we're going to go real general today because that's what I offer here. And so let's start off with some spinal stuff. And here's what I want us to first do is sit in your chair, however it is you want to sit in the chair, and let's just get in touch with the spine. Because the minute I say back or spine or whatever it is, your brain has like a very defined portion of what that is. And what I mean by that is you're very cognitively embodied in segments of your spine and probably far less in others. And so we're going to have a visualization exercise to start off with. So sitting however you're sitting, the invitation is just going to be present in your tailbone, right? Like that's it. Can you be present, aware in your tailbone? That is not your sacrum. That is not your sits bones, which we've done stuff with that. It is dead center at the very tail end of that spine. tailbone. Now, right above the tailbone, can you be present in your sacrum? So I have a right hip bone and a left hip bone there, and wedged in between them is sacrum. The sacrum kind of looks like an upside down triangle, and it ends in that tailbone. So I'm not asking now to be present in the tailbone, but above it. And how wide does that sacrum feel? How deep from backside to front side does that sacrum feel? If that's difficult, maybe just stay there. Can you be present where your sacrum meets your lumbar vertebra? And then maybe up one more vertebra and up one more vertebra. And can you just be present with the lumbar, the very bottom? We're not even going to be specific with numbers, discs, or anything. It's just relative in that area. Can you be present with its width, with its depth, with its height? And how high up did that go for you? Ideally, that lumbar vertebra should go all the way up to the base of the ribs, more or less, where it becomes thoracic vertebra. So if you're like, oh yeah, I was embodied in my lumbar vertebra, but it's like down low towards the pelvis and isn't behind the belly button, right? Because that's generally speaking L3. It's behind the belly button. You've still got two more to go above it before you reach the thoracic. And can you feel how those thoracic vertebrae become ribs? And what does that feel like on the left versus the right? Which one has more or less space, right? Sometimes by doing these embodiment exercises, we can start to feel scoliotic processes in the body, and it will become, it's like you're self-informing, right? Of, oh yeah, look at that. I collapse on my right or I collapse on my left. And then just begin to like play with that a bit, like rocking your ribs right and left, small, and going, maybe my perception, maybe your perception of sitting straight is a little off when you start to become more aware of the actual space in the ribs, in the spine, behind your heart, behind your like esophagus area. Once you've spent some time there, you can start to kind of notice cervical spine. That cervical spine, more or less, where the collarbone is, and behind it, up into the skull, that's your cervical spine. You might want to just do some like micro movements there to discern, oh yeah, look at that. There's space here, or there's no space here. And can you micro adjust, right, in your chair just enough to where it feels like wherever there is too much space, right or left side, or somewhere in the spine, that there's a little less space. And maybe where there's not enough space, it's like I adjust a bit to make it feel like there's more space. Because here's the cold, hard truth. Every single person watching this right now has some version of a scoliotic process, has some sort of spinal pathology going on, right? There's arthritis somewhere, there's a bulged disc somewhere, there's a scoliosis somewhere, there's a pinched nerve somewhere. Even if you're not symptomizing with it, right? Guaranteed that everyone watching this right now has something going on that they can micro adjust into, right? And it's just like, for lack of better words, it's almost fidgeting a bit. Now, if that's enough of the practice to if you're perfecting that, right? You know, if you're like, I don't know how to fidget, I don't know how to micro adjust, I don't know, I don't even know what you're talking about, right? It may just be looking at your body in like from the inside out in like blocks, right? And it's like, are the blocks even, or is one are the blocks even, or is one above or the other? Is one rotated in front of the other or the other? But like, what's the adjustment where it feels from the inside a little more aligned, a little more spacious, a little more pleasant feeling, right? And then see if you can kind of hold that space a little bit. And again, it becomes really difficult when I'm not working one on one with someone, when it's a group done over the interwebs, and then hold where it feels like there's space, right? And from there, we're going to reach our arms up. And then we're just going to let the shoulders, right? And it's like right shoulder and left shoulder. And we've done this exercise before. Now, it's not reaching, it's not stretching, it's just like a little bit of movement. And the movement might feel as if when I reach my right arm up, that the right lung slides toward the right armpit a bit. And then in contrast, when I reach my left arm up, the lung on the left slides towards the armpit a bit. And it kind of forces you to slow down. Meanwhile, the ask is also to be present all the way down in the tailbone, the sacrum, the low back, to kind of create some space. And then rest. And I'm going to scooch my chair back just a bit. And we're still sitting up relatively tall, right? And we're going to ask now that from like the diaphragm or the rib up, it stays relatively still. And I'm going to let, you can kind of notice here, it's difficult when I'm wearing all black, but you can kind of notice that the pelvis kind of tucks under and then rights itself, tucks under and rights itself. What I'm not doing here is a full spinal flexion and a full spinal extension. It's just like a little pelvic tilt here. And again, just embodying or being present in, does it feel like I have as much space on the right low back as I do on the left low back? And that may mean you need to slow down a bit. Now, you can continue there, or again, holding space, right and left low back, right and left low back. I'm going to keep both sit bones grounded. And I'm only thinking from the rib to my pelvis here. I'm going to visualize it with my hands. I'm going to compress or make shorter the right low back and make the left low back longer. And then I'm going to come back up. Then I'm going to change my mind. I'm going to make the left side of my low back short and the right side a little bit longer. I want to be really clear. What I'm not doing here is just reaching over, right? Notice how this is like the full spine tilting or making a letter C to this side. And this would be the full, it's like from the belly button up, it's relatively stagnant and still, right? I'm asking you to embody, to be present in very specific areas of your anatomy in order to shorten the right low back and stretch the left, and then right it back up, and then vice versa. If that hip wants to come along, right, butt out of seat, it's not the practice. Now, in contrast, from the belly button down, it stays still. And now we kind of compress the right ribs and stretch through the left ribs. And then it comes back, right? It's like an accordion. This is the rib cage. Left side is now going to squish. Right side gets to kind of fan open. And then neck gets to take the left ear to the left shoulder and then back, and the right ear to the right shoulder, left ear, right ear. Now, if one of those was hard, right? Because we kind of went sacrum to thoracic to cervical, like low back spine, rib spine, neck spine. One of those areas is difficult. Maybe stay there. If not, can the whole thing go to the left, starting at the top? Ear goes over, ribs go over, then that low spine. My butt is still in seat, and I come back from the bottom, up, up, right? Head, neck spine goes, rib spine goes, low back spine goes, low back spine, rib spine, neck spine. Good. Shake it all out. Let's get into the hips. We're going to go to our usual favorite, right? So we're going to take left leg over right. And if you can't quite get like this, remember, you can have leg like this, down like this. This left leg can go up on something, but we're just going to hold here and we're just going to do our rock. As I do this, I'm now, because the focus is space today, right? I'm focusing on, does it still feel like I have space in the right low back and the left low back, in the right lung and in the left lung, and in the right neck and in the left neck? Or am I like compressing somewhere, not knowing that I am? A little bit of a rock. One more. Now we're going to keep working with the left. That was my left leg. We also had an ask for knee, right? And a lot of knee stuff is coming from like quad area, this muscle. So I'm first just going to take and kind of do a general massage in that area. And I'm going to go down. I'm going to come back up. Just doing that like very general massage. And then I'm going to take my, again, this is my left leg. So I'm going to take my right hand and place it up on my upper quad, the upper thigh, and my left hand kind of just above the knee in what is my low quad. And as I lift my left foot, in fact, I'm going to give you an even better view here. As I lift this left foot here, I want to feel the muscle underneath my left hand, the knee hand, and not the muscle underneath my right hand, right? So often we're lifting our knee, we're doing knee movement from up in the hip area. And we want to strengthen up that low quad. If you have at home like a 2 pound weight, ankle weight, 3 pound ankle weight, all the better. Just give some feedback. We're just lifting and lowering. Now, if I was just exercising, right, I might do 3 minutes of this, 2 minutes of this, 30 reps of this. You determine how much work you want. But for the sake of class, another area that is often troubled with when I was saying knee is you have a tendon in the back of your knee that kind of goes through and holds onto that kneecap. And here's one of the best exercises. I'm going to sit forward. And I've just got that left foot out and I'm pressing down on the ground. On a scale of 1 to 10, I'm pressing down at about a 3. And then I'm dragging that foot in. I'm going back out and I'm just pressing down 5 toes, dragging it back in. Going out, dragging it back in. This can work with shoes. This can work without shoes. You want just a little bit of friction, right? One more. And then let's do the other side. So we're going to crisscross it over. We're going to work through the hip. Still assessing space. Working through the knee. Right knee means left hand goes relatively high, right hand goes low. You just need some proprioception, right? And I want to feel that's whatever is working, and you can flip-flop them, I don't care. Whatever is working, the muscles closest to the knee are working more than the muscles closest to the hip. And again, on your own, you can do this as many times as you'd like. This is working the front portion. And then the back portion, we do the slide. I reach out, press down, slide. Reach out, press down, slide. Reach down, slide. 1 or 2 more. And rest. One quick camera adjustment because we're going to transition to standing. So standing, I can come behind my chair. And I'm just going to use my chair as like a balance prop. I'm going to open up my legs wider than my chair, give or take. And then I'm going to weight shift right side, left side. And you might feel as your hips weight shift that there's some stretch or some awareness in your groin, in the inner portion of your thighs. And you're going to notice my upper body is relatively still. I'm just shifting the hip weight right and left. Now I'm going to find center here. I'm going to assess, do I have space in all of my spine? And then I can shift back and forth. And as I go back, I might feel like a hamstring stretch. Assessing space, right? It's an awareness strategy. And then I'm going to come forward. This time I'm going to shift my hip weight to the right, but I'm going to shift my shoulder weight to the left. Everything comes to center. Hip weight goes to left, shoulder weight goes to right. Center. Other direction. Other direction. One more to each side. One more over here. Back to center. From there, open up a little bit wider. Shift all of the weight to the right, bend the right knee, lunge down into it a bit. Other side. Other side. Other side. Center. Now, I'm going to demo up on this chair for a moment. Here's what my feet down below are going to be doing. I'm going to lift up through the heels and then back down, right? So it's a lift and back down. Meanwhile, all of these toes on the side are spread as much as they can spread and pressing down into the ground, right? So my toes are pressing down. My feet are now underneath my hips, so about 1 foot distance apart. Toes are spread. Both heels lift. I should feel a calf action and press. Lift. Toes are pressed down. Press. One more. Lift the heel. Lower the heel. Keep the heels down. Bend the knees. And you should feel kind of like a calf stretch. up or straighten the legs, heels lift, heels lower, knees bend, and repeat. A lot of that knee stuff is coming from ankle and or hip movement or lack of. One more. And then stand, kind of shake everything out. Just do a little twist. Now, as we wrap things up, whatever felt important for you to do today, if you're like, oh, I never knew I had more space here or less space here, or that thing in the leg felt really good to do those. Do those. I'll stick around for whatever questions you might have. Thank you for joining, and please join us on Friday for an Adjusting to Change Toolkit class, where we talk more about nervous system regulation and all sorts of fun stuff. Thank you, everybody. Really appreciate it. And again, I'll stick around for whatever questions you might have. Awesome. No questions. Okay, everyone. Thank you so much. Really appreciate your time today. Bye, Raymond. Bye, everybody. Oh, for those of you who want to see, always, there's Bob. Sound asleep today. Bye, everybody.